the astronomical figures that are paid for access to premium national and international sports footage is something we could never ever have afforded. But to be able to do that and have that was great. The one thing we stipulated was that those sport governing bodies should give us exclusivity in the incredible narrow area of the development of teaching, interactive teaching and learning aids in the laws of sport. Incredibly obscure and meaningless for them, critical for us because it provides a barrier to entry for all the world's big software houses.
Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, a little bit about, just what shaped your journey as a professional?
Well, let's talk first of all just about the blockchain bit, because I think that's what the audience will be most curious about. I mean, I've worked in and around blockchain since 2013, April 2013, or February 2013. Initially for the UK government's innovation agency, which is similar in nature to DARPA in the US. It doesn't have a strong slant in terms of military applications as DARPA does, some, but the key thing is that that agency supports and pushes technology-driven innovation across all industry sectors. Now, one of my portfolio responsibilities at that time, back in 2013, and during my time there, was blockchain technology. So I've been in and around the space from initially a policy and technology perspective from 2013. You and I, Dan, worked together at IOHK Cardano from 2019 onwards. And I initially worked at IOHK. I think the job originally was media director. I think it's fair to say that toward the end, or within a year or so, nobody knew what my job was, really.
Well, I didn't. I remember that.
I didn't. I don't think Charles did. Charles was very, very relaxed about that. And so, but essentially, Charles would send me off on a range of special projects, essentially. But also the great thing about Charles is that although his public persona is one of being someone with all the answers, he had a really valuable quality behind the scenes and internally. And that was that he would take counsel from other people. He would listen to people with completely different perspectives and completely different opinions, which is critical in business. He didn't, we're talking about Charles, so he didn't always follow through on those. But, as the saying goes, at least in UK policy circles, advisors advise, ministers decide, and that was the relationship. So that's the background element of things. But for a long time, over the course of the past 40 years, I've done quite a few different things. I think initially I spent the best part of 10 years in policy development in fairly obscure things, everything from government housing policy through to all sorts of things, for the best part of 10 years. And then did various things, had a software company. We were developing interactive software, educational software that taught people the laws of sport. And how incredibly obscure is that? But my co-founder had wanted to do something like this for a long time. He was a football or soccer referee. And when he trained, he went into a classroom. They were given copies of the laws of the game, told to open the book at page 1, to read and listen. That was it. They were taught in the same way they had been for over 100 years. So he saw an opportunity for some software. We should not have been successful because we were nothing. Initially, 3 founders. We brought on some software development contractors, and we brought software in in-house. We should not have been successful because we were minuscule, and all the large development software development houses should have seen what we were doing and crushed us. For reasons I'll talk about perhaps later, we didn't, and we were successful. And the reason we were successful is because we weren't actually a software company, or more accurately, software wasn't really our USP. We did something very, very clever. We thought we were a software company because we had developers, we had sprints, we had bug reports, we had scheduled releases. We're a software company, except we weren't. We were doing nothing special, but we survived because our commercial strategy was around developing and protecting market exclusivity. What we did was we partnered with sport governing bodies, both national sport governing bodies in the UK and their global equivalents across rugby, tennis, football, everything you can think of, cycling, every sport you can think. We ended up with 11 or 12 sports toward the end. We had relationships with national and international sport governing bodies. And the payoff was that they would give us resources and development support around the laws of the game and so on, and we would allow them to use the product in the competitive environment of getting people involved in their sports. You know, kids who aren't going to be professional tennis players, aren't going to be professional soccer players, aren't going to be professional badminton or basketball players, can still remain in the game if they coach or if they officiate. And so the competitive environment of schools where sports are competing for the eyes and for the attention of young people, this software gave those sport governing bodies an additional bow. So the payoff was that we would allow them to use the software, and they gave us their support, their official endorsement, and crucially, footage. Now, you know, the astronomical figures that are paid for access to premium national and international sports footage is something we could never, ever have afforded. But to be able to do that and have that was great. The one thing we stipulated was that those sport governing bodies should give us exclusivity in the incredible narrow area of the development of teaching, interactive teaching and learning aids in the laws of sport. Incredibly obscure and meaningless for them. Critical for us because it provides a barrier to entry for all the world's big software houses who would want a slice of national and international sport, you know, globally. But even that wasn't really sufficient, because even though we secured that, we were still tiny in terms of our marketing machinery and our ability to distribute the software. So we partnered with Edexcel, the education awarding body. I think they're also, I can't remember their name in the US, but they're the largest education business in the US as well.